your #1 source for local news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
It might be sunny where you are right now, but we have a line of showers that's moving through parts of the viewing area. I'll let you know if you could see some of this later this afternoon.
Plus, the trial begins today for a man charged with stabbing his wife to death, then fleeing the state. We're live at the courthouse with today's developments.
Also, there could soon be another COVID vaccine booster on the market when Johnson & Johnson plans to ask for emergency approval for booster shots.
Jury selection began this morning in the trial of a Nash County man charged with killing his wife, then fleeing to another state. Good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. The 2019 murder raises questions about the death of the suspect's first wife. WRAL's Keenan Willard joins us live at the courthouse in Greenville to show us the case the state will be making against Lynn Keel. Keenan.
In the next few hours, Lynn Keel will stand before a judge here at the Pitt County Courthouse. The 59-year-old is charged with first-degree murder in the death of his second wife, Diana. Now, Diana Keel went missing from the couple's Nashville home in March 2019. The Nash County Sheriff's Office says Keel originally told investigators that his wife had left the house to run errands before disappearing. 3 days later, Diana's body was found in a rural part of Edgecombe County, 30 miles from their home. The Nash Sheriff's Office says she died from sharp and blunt force trauma to her head, face, and neck. Keel was named a person of interest in his wife's death, and as soon as a warrant went out for his arrest, the sheriff's office says Keel made a run for it, driving west for 2 straight days before being arrested in a traffic stop in Pima County, Arizona, carrying a large amount of cash with him. Keel was flown back to Nash County and charged with first-degree murder, with Nash County choosing to move the trial to Greenville. Now, these charges come after Lynn Keel's first wife, Bess, died 15 years ago after a fall at their home that was ruled an accident at the time. We're expecting Keel's trial to begin within the next 2 hours, and we'll be providing updates from inside the courthouse, both on air and online. Back to you.
Keenan Willard reporting live in Greenville. Thank you.
And I'm Micaiah Thurman here in the WRAL Live Center. We're following some breaking news. Travel right now blocked between the U.S. and Canada after a threat of possibly seeing some explosives being found. This is breaking within the past hour. You can see traffic is not moving there. Those vehicles stopped in that one direction. Windsor police are on the scene on the Canadian side of the bridge. They are sending investigators to look at what is reported to be explosives. Now, of course, this has had huge impacts on travel between the U.S. and Canada. So Windsor police say that they are opening up other points of entry, including the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel and the Blue Water Bridge. Back to you.
All right, Micaiah, thanks. We have a slight chance of showers and storms this afternoon, but later in the week, our chances go up. Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRL Severe Weather Center with a look at how much rain we could see between now and the end of the week. Elizabeth?
Take a look at this. It looks gorgeous, doesn't it? Blue sky, just a few puffy cumulus clouds right here at Solar Farm 5, which is in eastern Wake County. But now look at this. It is pouring rain in Roxborough. We saw at the beginning of the newscast just a minute ago that band that's coming through our northern county. So depending on where you are, it may be wet or it may be absolutely gorgeous. It is a fairly small band. We'll zoom in on it and you can see it moving right through Roxborough, Person County. It's getting ready to move on up through Mecklenburg County, Virginia. It'll most likely also pass by through parts of Granville County and continue to head on off to the east. So we're going to be dealing with this for now, but we'll see more of it as we head through the day. As a matter of fact, Futurecast shows a line developing by later this afternoon. There's 5, 6 o'clock. You can see this line. Now, this is not a line of severe thunderstorms by any means, but it is likely to be a line that produces some potentially brief heavy rain and some gusty winds, maybe even a little thunder and lightning, but not likely to reach severe criteria. We take a look at what's going on in terms of how much rain we could see from here on out. All the way through the end of the week. 30% chance today, 40% chance Tuesday, up to a 60% chance on Friday. Over the next 5 days, our weather pattern is going to change. We're going to be talking about a coastal low toward the end of the week. I'll show you the timeline for that and how much rain we could actually total up in the rain gauges coming up.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Starting today, you have 2 options if you want to attend an event at major performing arts venues across the Triangle. WRAL's Michelle McConaughey joins us now with the new measures going into effect today. Michelle.
Well, Renee, until recently, most venues only required face masks, but now places like Red Hat and the Ritz in Raleigh say you either need to get vaccinated or you have to get tested for COVID-19. Fully vaccinated individuals must have received their final dose at least 2 weeks before the event. And for those getting tested, you must provide a negative test 72 hours before. These rules apply at the DPAC and all Live Nation venues, which include the Coastal Credit Union, Music Park at Walnut Creek, Red Hat Amphitheater, and the PNC Music Pavilion in Charlotte. Several venues are taking precautions a step further, requiring their staff and even performing artists to be vaccinated or show a negative test. Last week, Three Doors Down had to cancel their October 7th show at Red Hat, citing new regulations put in place since the announcement. Renee.
Michelle, thanks for the update.
Johnson & Johnson is expected to seek emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 booster shot in the next day or two. According to the New York Times, that request comes after a study found the J&J vaccine was only 71% effective against hospitalization from the coronavirus. Regulators had already scheduled a meeting for October 14th for an advisory committee to discuss whether or not to grant approval to J&J for the booster shot. Remember those people who said they didn't want to get COVID vaccines that were not fully approved by the FDA? Well, it appears getting that approval did not change many minds. Pfizer saw an increase in demand for its vaccine after it received full FDA approval, but it was modest and short-lived. In the week following that full approval, Pfizer vaccination rates rose by 16%. During the same time, rates for Moderna's vaccine, which still only has emergency use approval, rose by 5%. In subsequent weeks, demand has fallen for both.
Today, school leaders will meet in Harnett County to discuss face masks in schools and shortening student quarantine periods. The meeting comes just one day before an optional mask policy is set to take effect. WRL's Casey Cunningham is in Lillington with this story.
Starting tomorrow, masks will be optional for students and staff here in Harnett County schools. But taking a look at the school board agenda for tonight, it looks like this could be back up for debate. And here's why. I want to show you this. This is what we found attached to the school board agenda. It's a letter from the county's health director to the Harnett County School Superintendent. In the letter, the health director recommends masks continue to be worn in Harnett County schools. The county health director goes on to say that the school system should also reconsider reducing the quarantine period from 10 days to 7 days. We'll be monitoring the meeting tonight and let you know what happens. We'll keep you updated on any changes. Harnett County is the only local school district in our area that would make masks optional for students and staff. Casey Cunningham, WRL News in Harnett County.
Tonight, Wake County leaders will discuss one major effort to keep housing affordable. Leaders want to create a preservation fund of more than $10 million. The goal is to use the money to buy up affordable housing to prevent it from being redeveloped. The Wake County Board of Commissioners meets today at 5 p.m. Starting today, people in Durham will not be able to apply for emergency rent assistance. A program to help people behind on rent is putting a pause on new applications. Leaders say the pause is just temporary. The program has received more than 6,600 applications since it launched in May. During the pause, thousands of pending applications will be processed so leaders can get funds to people who need it.
Democratic lawmakers are split on the size and scope of their social spending package. Moderates and progressives can't seem to find common ground. And now House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is pushing a new deadline to pass a bipartisan infrastructure package after missing a previous one. Madeline Rivera reports Republicans oppose the legislation.
Democrats are pushing forward with talks on two major bills, infrastructure and social spending, despite missing a self-imposed deadline to get the former passed last week. This time, the Biden administration says it's not being held to an artificial timeline.
This is just about delivering and making sure that we deliver both bills to the American people.
Still, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is setting October 31st as the new deadline for the passage of the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. But first, the party must reach a compromise on the larger package, because progressives say they won't support infrastructure without it.
It's never been about the price tag. It's about what we want to deliver.
The top line number is key, though, for two holdout senators, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who are calling for a smaller package. Manchin says he'll back a $1.5 trillion bill.
I'm listening to Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, as Chuck Schumer is every single day.
As negotiations on the two pieces of legislation continue, President Biden is warning about a more immediate deadline, October 18th. That's when the U.S. is expected to exhaust its cash reserves unless Congress raises or suspends the debt ceiling. Republicans say Democrats should do so on their own.
I hope the Republicans won't be so irresponsible as to refuse to raise the debt limit.
As Madeline Rivera reporting, and in a new development, the Senate parliamentarian has ruled that a standalone bill aimed at raising the debt limit can be passed through reconciliation, which only requires a simple majority. Let's take a look at stocks to start the week here, and some of the major indices are taking a steep plunge right now to start the week. You can see the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 320. It was down 350 at one point. And the other major indices, NASDAQ down 2% overall. That's 322 points down. New York Stock Exchange also down 166 at this hour.
The Durham-based company Cree is now officially known as Wolfspeed, and it has a significant new customer, General Motors. With the change in name comes another. The company now trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol Wolf. Company executives, including CEO Greg Lowe, rang the opening bell on the exchange this morning. The company previously sold its LED lighting business. Wolfspeed's semiconductor technology is seen as providing a boost to electric-powered vehicles. You can read more on WRAL TechWire.
And I'm Micaiah Thurman here in the WRAL Live Center. If you're having issues getting on social media, specifically Facebook and Instagram, it's not you. In fact, they are down right now. Take a look at the down detector. This showing the number of outages that we're seeing with Facebook. You can see within the last 20 minutes that almost 5,000 reports of outages have come in. And also Instagram, owned by the same company, seeing the same amount of outages. At this point, there's no word from the platforms on what may be causing these issues, but you will need to allow some time. Back to you.
Next at noon, a massive oil spill on the coast of California. What workers are doing above and below the water to limit the damage.
Also, what a light show here. Dozens report a meteor above Colorado. What experts say made this one so bright.
Plus, a devastating fire destroys a horse veterinary hospital in Chatham County. The damage caused to a place that houses dozens of horses.
Download the new WRAL streaming apps on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and Android TV.
Hey guys, it's Jamie and Sarah with the Wine and Dandy podcast, and this week we're doing something a little different. We're heading into cocktail territory.
We're going to talk about New York cocktails, which is the title of the book Amanda Schuster wrote, and we're going to talk to her all about it.
Join us.
You can find our podcast at WRALFM.com, as well as your Apple Podcast app and anywhere you find your podcasts.
Just look for Wine and Dandy. Once you search and find it and enjoy it, please tell all your friends. Share the link with them.
And be sure to follow us, because wine is fun and we intend to prove it.
The new term for the Supreme Court starts today. With the strongest conservative majority in decades, the justices' decisions could cause a wide-ranging shift in laws affecting many hot-button social issues. Chris Pallone is on Capitol Hill with a preview.
Among the most highly anticipated cases of the new term, the court will take up a Mississippi law which bans virtually all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy.
Our certain hope is that they will see that the current standard of 24 weeks is too rigid and that we need to move that forward some amount of time.
That standard established nearly 50 years ago in Roe versus Wade.
They would be gutting the Roe versus Wade decision and the architecture on which it stands.
Also likely to be revisited, the new Texas law, which bans abortions after 6 weeks, which the court allowed to take effect a month ago. The justices will also settle a question raised by a New York gun law, which requires showing a special need to get a permit to carry a concealed weapon.
Does your right to self-protection stop when you leave your home?
Also on the docket, the separation of church and state when it comes to schools and public money.
I think we're going to look back at this as the year in which the conservatives really did fully take over the Supreme Court and American constitutional law, where they got what they were really looking for on the big hot button issues that affect all of Americans' lives.
Today's arguments will be held in person, the first time that's happened in 19 months.
Chris Pallone reporting there. Newly released confidential records expose the tax havens of some of the richest people in the world. The so-called Pandora Papers are made up of almost 12 million documents. They detail how athletes, musicians, and politicians around the world avoided paying their taxes. Notable names include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, King Abdullah II of Jordan, and pop star Shakira.
And I'm Micaiah Thurman here in the WREL Live Center. We want to bring you some breaking news right now. Take a look at this presence in Tucson. Police say there is an active scene right now in the downtown area. As this camera changes angles, you can see the SWAT team surrounding an Amtrak train. At this point, authorities have not said exactly what they are investigating, but they are saying that further information will come. In the meantime, residents have to avoid the area. Back to you.
Time is running out for federal workers to get vaccinated or leave their job. That deadline is set for next month. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management says department and agency heads can enforce President Biden's vaccine mandate beginning November 9th. Agencies are advised to provide counseling or educational material before terminating any employees. If an employee keeps refusing to get vaccinated or provides a legitimate legal exception, they can be fired. JetBlue is the latest airline to require its employees to get the COVID vaccine. The move comes in the wake of the Biden administration's announcement that federal government contractors have to get the shot. No word on when that requirement goes into effect. American Airlines and Alaska Airlines also announced similar decisions.
United Airlines has banned more than 700 passengers for breaking its COVID protocols. That's since the start of the pandemic. United CEO Scott Kirby says it's pretty low compared to the number of customers overall, and it's also low compared to the other U.S. airlines like Delta, which has banned 1,600 people from flying since the pandemic began. Kirby credits flight attendants and de-escalation training for the low numbers. Crews are working above and below water to try to limit damage after more than 120,000 gallons of oil spilled into the waters off Southern California. Officials say it happened when an underwater pipeline started leaking oil late Friday or early Saturday. The pipeline and 3 oil platforms it serves have been shut down. No word yet on what caused the spill. An investigation is underway.
You could say this next story is a case of life imitating art. William Shatner is scheduled to launch on the next crewed spaceflight of Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. The 90-year-old Canadian actor who famously played Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek TV series will be one of the passengers on the company's New Shepard rocket. That launch is planned for October 12th with the crew of 4. Shatner's trip would be the second human spaceflight for Blue Origin's tourism and research rocket New Shepard. Bet he'll fit right in. Talk about a light show. Dozens of people reported seeing a meteor light up the sky over Colorado. It happened around 4:30 Sunday morning. Yes, wow, did you see that? One man says he was brewing his coffee and just stepped outside for a minute when he saw that flash of light. Here's another look at another camera. A Denver professor believes it was likely about 50 miles away from Earth and was so bright due to the sheer speed the rock was traveling. He says it's very common to see this with dark Colorado skies. And great that we have those doorbell cameras that get to capture it in case you missed it, right, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. That was amazing, wasn't it? Yeah, it's a lot harder around here where we're fairly densely populated. We have a lot of light pollution, so those things can be a lot harder to see around here. And depending on where you are, it may be hard to see rain. Even today, we're going to see a few scattered showers. I do feel like once we get closer to the evening commute, maybe 5 to 7 o'clock, we'll start to see a better chance of rain across more of the viewing area. If you look back to the west, up and down the I-77 corridor, back closer to Charlotte, we're starting to see some rain developing there. We'll take another peek here. We're seeing that shower move through the eastern part of Person County, on into Granville County, Mecklenburg County, Virginia, and it will continue to slide across I-85, past Henderson, and most likely on toward Roanoke Rapids. We take a look at Futurecast, and Futurecast, this version of Futurecast, not really picking up on that right away, but definitely picking up on some showers that begin around the time of the evening commute, or maybe even closer to dinner time. We see this line that starts to develop, but not until fairly late. That's 9, 10, 11 o'clock before that really starts to move into our viewing area. Again, I wouldn't expect any of that to be severe, but there could be some brief heavy rain and some blustery winds along with that. Goldsboro, Apex, Chapel Hill, Durham, all looking clear and beautiful. We're only seeing that rain up near the Virginia line right now. But again, I would expect that line to move on in and potentially affect more of us by the time we get to the evening, maybe even at or after sunset. 67 is our muggy meter. What a difference. Last week it was dry. We had fairly low humidity. It felt really good. It's feeling a lot more tropical right now. We have a low pressure system in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which will help to bring more moisture in from the Gulf of Mexico. And with the clouds, we'll also have some cooler temperatures that develop. Anytime we have a trough of low pressure, we often are cooler and often a bit wetter. And so that's going to be our big pattern coming up for the remainder of the week. We take a look at our temperatures, and our temperatures are likely to remain above normal for the next several days. And even as we head into the latter part of the week, 77 is our normal high for this time of year. So technically we stay above normal all the way through Saturday. Our better chance of rain is actually going to come as we get into Thursday and Friday. We have a coastal low that's going to develop, and we're going to watch where that heads and how that could bring us a better chance for rain toward the end of the week. After that, we're looking at more fall weather. Look at this. Our overnight lows drop into the 60s, and our afternoon highs are in the mid 70s by Sunday. But on and off, we're going to see some rain this week. A lot of it will be pretty quick coming through. Some of it may be fairly light, but toward the end of the week, we'll have a better chance of more widespread rain. Again, we'll walk through that hour by hour with Futurecast in just a bit.
Okay, we do need the rain. Thanks, Elizabeth. She was excited about the opportunity.
She kept asking me all these questions, and I was saying, wow, let me try to do my best because I want to be hired. I need a job.
But instead of a job, it was all a scam. Tonight at 6, 5 on your side shares how anyone posting a resume online could be a target.
But first, could outdoor dining become a permanent addition to Durham's downtown? Sarah Kruger looks into the possibility and shows what it could mean for your favorite restaurants. And we're just 3 weeks away from Halloween. Now you can share your holiday plans with your neighbors with a simple click.
Plus, it's a whopping asking price for a 250 square foot home, just under $450,000. The amenities it has and the reaction it's getting on social media. Welcome back. Here's a live look at Roxborough, where some rain is moving through. You can see the gray, ominous skies there. Could be bright sunshine where you are. We're seeing varied clouds all across the triangle and beyond. And don't be surprised if you see a little bit of rain moving through. Sales of new vehicles were way down in December. What's behind the drop? And the movie that rockets to the top of the box office. Those are among today's business headlines with Maribel Aber.
A big drop in new vehicle sales last month as the computer chip shortage and higher prices battered the auto industry. Sales fell about 26% in September, according to USA Today. Edmunds estimates just a little more than 1 million vehicles were sold in the month. New vehicles are in short supply due to the lack of computer chips. And prices on the autos available hit a record high of $42,800 on average in September. Home ownership is becoming less affordable. The median U.S. household needs 32.1% of its income to cover its monthly mortgage payment. That's on a payment for a median-priced home, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. It's the highest percentage of income needed since late 2008 during the financial crisis. Soaring home prices are behind the jump in mortgage payments. There's a new number one at the box office. Venom, Let There Be Carnage pulled in more than $90 million in ticket sales over the weekend. That's the highest for any movie since the pandemic started. Addams Family 2 was a distant second with $18 million in box office receipts. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings slipped to third place with $6 million. And those are your business headlines. I'm Maribel Aber on the Money Desk.
Nextdoor wants to put the fun into Halloween, I should say. The neighborhood networking site has launched its annual treat map. The company is urging people to use the map to share their plans for the holiday. Nextdoor says the map is their most popular seasonal feature. The site says if you plan on handing out treats, then put the candy icon next to your home. If you're decorating, use the haunted decor icon to attract those fright seekers. And if you're doing both, select the ghost icon. Crews are keeping an eye on hot spots after a large fire destroyed a veterinary hospital for horses. No animals or people were believed to be injured. We'll have an update on the investigation. Plus, if you haven't already done so, now's the time to schedule your flu shot. Coming up in our next half hour, we're joined by Dr. Nicole Swiner with why the vaccine could help prevent the so-called twindemic. And here are your winning lottery numbers on your screen.
Your number one source for local news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
Fire crews are on the scene of a fire that destroyed a business in Chatham County.
Yeah, a large fire destroyed a veterinary hospital for horses in New Hill. This map gives you a little better idea of where that area is. And WRAL's Laura Levine explains the link the owner has to the Olympics.
At this hour, you can still see smoke in the air and several fire crews still on the scene working to contain what's left of the fire here at 3H Equine Veterinary Hospital. Right now, all hands are on deck. The community is rallying in support after a massive fire engulfed one of the barns at the veterinarian hospital in New Hill. It happened around midnight and fire crews are still on the scene. About 40 horses live at the site. Only 6 were inside the barn that burned down. Luckily, none of them were injured. Owner Fernando Cartnes tells me he heard noises coming from the fire last night. That's when he rushed to save the horses. He's saddened to see the outcome.
We built this from the scratch. This is our home, this is our business, and so it's obviously sad to see your dreams go away, or not your dreams, but all your pictures, your things you've given to your son, to know that you're never going to have that again.
I'm told they're looking at millions of dollars worth in damage. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. A client did start a GoFundMe to help support them financially. We'll have a link on WRAL.com. Laura Levine, WRAL News in New Hill.
And I'm Micaiah Thurman here in the WRAL Live Center. We are getting a look at our North Carolina COVID-19 metrics. You can see some of our numbers here. In total, we are seeing just about 2,200 newly reported cases. Since Friday, though, in total, it was 10,000. This 2,200 number that we have is actually the lowest number of COVID cases that we've had in one day since August 3rd. And then when you take a look at our number of hospitalizations, we're at about 2,600. And finally, I want to draw your attention to the number of positive cases that we're having, that percentage at 8.4%. Back to you.
Starting today, UNC Chapel Hill employees who are not vaccinated will have to undergo weekly testing. The original deadline was extended from September 1st because school leaders saw a positive trend in the overall number of faculty and staff who've attested to their vaccinations. If you get the shot, you must fill out the COVID-19 vaccine certification form in order to be exempt from the required weekly testing. Today, leaders in Durham will consider plans to pay for mandatory COVID-19 testing for city employees. WRAL was the first to tell you that taxpayers may have to pick up the bill for testing unvaccinated workers. City Council has vowed to come up with a different plan. Their next meeting will happen tonight at 7.
Johnson & Johnson says it plans to ask the feds for approval for booster shots of its COVID vaccine ahead of the FDA's meeting on October 14th. Meanwhile, as the new surge continues, the CDC is issuing new guidelines on holiday gatherings. Steve Harrigan reports.
There could soon be another COVID vaccine booster authorized by the FDA. Johnson & Johnson formally asking for emergency use authorization for its booster shots, which increased the vaccine's effectiveness from 71 to 94%. That authorization could come as early as October 15th. Following an FDA meeting focused on boosters and vaccines for young people. And a growing number of doctors say the boosters could become an annual event.
We're moving from an epidemic to an endemic phase. That is, we've got to learn to live with it.
The announcement comes just 3 days after Merck announced its COVID-fighting pill cut hospitalizations in half in a large-scale trial, leading some to suggest vaccination should no longer be a priority. A theory rejected by federal health officials.
That's such a false narrative. If someone says, well, now you have a drug. Remember, the easiest way to stay out of the hospital and not die is don't get infected.
Meanwhile, with new COVID cases down more than 33% in the past month, the CDC is issuing new guidelines to help keep families safe during the holidays, recommending virtual celebrations whenever possible, and strongly urging those not vaccinated to stay outdoors.
I think it's important that they ask about people's vaccination status and similar things that we would tell people in the office.
Steve Harrigan reporting. The CDC also recommends using a fan to keep the air circulating during holiday gatherings.
Tonight, the Johnson County School Board will discuss approved policy changes that will impact how students learn about systemic racism. The changes are intended to prevent elements of systemic racism education from being taught inside classrooms. Under the newest set of revisions, teachers could face disciplinary action. The Johnson County Board of Commissioners is also withholding millions of dollars in school funding. They're doing so until the school board adopts a policy banning certain curriculum on systemic racism in America. Today, you have another chance to share your ideas for the future of public transportation along New Bern Avenue in Raleigh. City leaders are holding a public meeting today to talk about 10 new bus rapid transit stations planned along the New Bern Avenue corridor from downtown to New Hope Road. They want to hear ideas on topics including affordable housing and ways to reduce carbon emissions. You can stop by the Roberts Park Community Center or the Comfort Suites on Corporation Parkway from 7 to 9 tonight.
Doctors want you to be protected heading into flu season. After the break, family physician Dr. Nicole Swiner will join us live to address the common questions and concerns about flu shots.
And what you eat affects how you drive. The new research that shows how the junk food you consume can wreck your decisions behind the wheel. Our team is working to bring you exclusive stories for coverage you'll find only on WRAL. Visit WRAL.com and search only.
We're back here in the WRAL Live Center. We are following some breaking news. GlaxoSmithKline making a big announcement. This article just being posted on WRAL TechWire. They are relocating their offices, hundreds of workers as well, to downtown Durham. Specifically, they are going from RTP to the American Tobacco campus. The company also says no jobs are going to be lost. Simply, they didn't need as much space since half of its workforce was actually working remotely. So the company expects to move its workers in the first half of next year, but certainly some big impacts for Durham. Back to you.
No doubt. All right, Micaiah, thanks. Flu season's upon us, and with the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, doctors are urging people to get their flu shots now. Joining us to talk about the need to act sooner rather than later is Dr. Nicole Swiner with Durham Family Medicine. Dr. Swiner, thank you so much for again taking the time this noon with us. There's no real fixed date for when flu season starts, but can you break down and tell us the peak months for flu activity?
Under normal circumstances, it's usually December, January, but clearly with us dealing with the COVID pandemic and coming off good numbers last year as far as the flu was concerned, we're expecting it to hit maybe a little bit earlier than that.
And with that, some experts are saying there are early signs the flu season could be more severe as well if it's earlier also. What do you tell your patients to do right now?
Yeah, so there were a number of things that happened, right? So instead of the normal 200,000 or so cases of flu nationally that we would normally see, we only saw about 2,000 last year, which was largely because we were masking, we were socially distancing, we were doing all the right things, washing our hands. But because of that, we weren't really exposed to flu like we normally would be. Our immune system didn't have time to build. So this year may be a completely different story. So I'm going ahead and telling my patients, including, me and those that live in my house, we're going to go ahead and get it sooner rather than later.
What about groups that could be at high risk for developing some of those flu-related complications? Are there groups like that?
So generally the same, the vulnerable population as you think of normally would be the very young and the very old. So our pediatric and our geriatric patients definitely are a little bit more vulnerable, or those that are have high risk medical disease. But really it's all of us. We need to be more serious than we normally would be about protecting ourselves from the flu.
And preventing the flu spread, is it virtually the same as what we're doing for coronavirus right now? Up to 50,000 Americans die each year because of the flu.
That's right. I'm hopeful that continuing some of the things that we're doing because of COVID, masking, socially distancing, being very choosy about where we go and how many people are there, and getting our vaccinations, I'm hopeful that we'll continue that same trend when it comes to flu. Now that our kids are back in school, now that we're quote, back to normal, I hope that we'll be as proactive as we've been with the COVID vaccine, with getting our flu vaccine earlier this year.
Yeah, certainly do not downplay it. Some of the symptoms are very much alike. So Dr. Nicole Swiner, thank you so much for your expertise in this matter. We appreciate you joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
A new study says poor eating habits not only crash your health, they may cause you to have one in a vehicle. Researchers overseas say they found a correlation between what you eat and the decisions you make at the wheel of a car. The study concluded people who develop bad eating habits, such as junk food, energy drinks, or high sugar fat content, had tendencies toward aggression, fast decision making, and risky driving behaviors, such as speeding.
Knowing what to do when an alarm sounds in your home will keep you and your family safe. But do you know the difference between the sound of your fire alarm and carbon monoxide alarm? We'll talk with a local fire and life safety educator about this potentially life-saving campaign.
Plus, it's a tiny home with an astronomical price tag. You won't believe the asking price for this 250 square foot home. It is time to sound the alarm. The first week of October is designated as Fire Prevention Week. This year's campaign is designed to educate everyone about the different sounds smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms make. Joining us to talk about this very important campaign is Emily Powell with the Chapel Hill Fire Department. Emily, great to have you with us to break down this important topic. Knowing what to do when an alarm sounds will keep you and your family safe. Every home should have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms. What do families need to know about these devices?
Yes, thank you for having us on. This is a really important topic and something we talk about all year long. But during Fire Prevention Week, we really want to drive home how badly families need these in their homes. So there's two types of alarms that every home should have, a smoke alarm and a carbon monoxide alarm. You should have smoke alarms, all levels of your home, inside and outside of sleeping areas, and a carbon monoxide alarm needs to go on every level of the home. And the only way you're going to know if you have a carbon monoxide emergency is with one of these alarms. So that's why it's really important that we get these into homes.
And describe the difference in their sounds, Emily.
Sure. So that's one of the themes this year is learn the sounds of fire safety, because there's two distinct sounds that these alarms make when they go off. The smoke alarm should sound like 3 loud beeps, followed by a break, 3 loud beeps, repeating until there is no longer an emergency. And a carbon monoxide alarm sounds a little bit different when there's an emergency. It's 4 shorter, faster beeps. Now, both of these alarm in an emergency, but they also will make a chirping sound if you have a low battery or something called an end of life alarm. And that's one that many people aren't as familiar with. So I recommend reading the manual for your alarm, figuring out what sound it's going to make, and how to interpret that sound. So you know if it's an emergency, you need a new battery or a whole new alarm.
And then if either of those alarms sound, what should people do? How can families plan for that?
Yeah, so definitely if they go off, get outside. There's going to be an emergency, get outside, go to your family meeting place and call 911. That's when the firefighters show up. We have our special tools like thermal imagers, gas meters, and we can figure out why that alarm went off, or if there's a smoke and fire, we'll put it out. Yeah.
Emily, really quickly, if people do not have these alarms in their home, how can they get one?
Yeah, so if you don't have an alarm in your home, make sure that you do. So every home needs a working alarm. So go to your local fire department, ask them for help. If not, we can go to the Red Cross, Baptist Aging Ministries, Department of Aging, Health and Human Services. Start reaching out to these resources, but start with your fire department. I know that in Chapel Hill, if you call me, I will come almost that same day to install one for you.
Fantastic. Well, Emily Powell with Chapel Hill Fire, thank you so much for sharing that information about the sounds of fire safety. Families start planning.
Thank you, Renee.
All right, thanks.
But we are not exactly sounding the alarms about weather this week. But Elizabeth Carter in the WRL Severe Weather Center, there is need to be aware later this week.
Exactly. So you look outside right now. This is a live look at the Capitol building as we're looking down Fayetteville Street. And it looks beautiful. We're seeing clear skies, 82 degrees. So it has been a very quick warm up. And it's muggy out there, too. Our dew point, as we talked about earlier in the newscast, is way up in the upper 60s. That's a very sticky feel. When we take a look at Chapel Hill, same thing. Partly cloudy skies, looking beautiful. A little cooler there at 76 degrees. And we'll travel down to Fayetteville, and we're looking at beautiful conditions there too, lots of sunshine and 80 degrees. So it's definitely warm out there right now. We take a look at the dual Doppler 5000 radar. We were taking a peek at it earlier. We were watching all of the rain that was up here in Person County. That's now shifting over toward Granville County, and it's looking a little bit more cellular, meaning it's, we've got these little spots that are showing up, producing some rain. Some of these could eventually change over into thunderstorms. We may have some thunder and lightning, but our chance for severe storms today, which would have winds gusting up to almost 60 miles per hour or some larger hail, is unlikely. Now, some brief heavy rain, yes, and this first band moving through is not likely to be the only one. It looks like this evening, say starting around the time of the evening commute and then lasting almost until midnight, we're going to see another band that starts to develop. And you can see that there's 5 o'clock. There's that band that's back to the west, an isolated shower ahead of it, but it really forms up pretty nicely there around 9 or 10 o'clock and starts to move in. Again, that's not a line of severe storms, at least that's not the way it looks right now, but just a line of some thunderstorms coming through. We have a cold front that's back to the west, and that cold front starts to get closer to us and may help to form up that line a little bit later on today. We'll see that, we'll pause it as we get into the day tomorrow, and you can see that front sort of washes out. There's 8:30 tomorrow, and we're looking at a chance of some showers. On Wednesday, it's looking a little bit drier on this version of Futurecast, and then we have a low that begins to develop and move up the coast. There's Thursday at 6:15, definitely not an all-day rain Thursday, but we may see the rain developing a little earlier on Friday as this low very gradually moves on up the coast. So turning a little wetter later in the week, but still a 5-day rainfall total altogether still could be as low as 1/4 to 1/2 an inch in the east, but as high as 1 inch to 1.5 inches in some of our western counties. So we take a look today, 30% chance, then a 50% chance on Wednesday, and a 60% chance on Friday. Saturday, it's a 40% chance. I mean, take a look at what's going on here in the tropics. Sam is just taken off. Victor is really fizzling out. We were watching this. This is actually diminished down to a 10% chance of development. But we watched this low moving up the coast of Florida, the same one that's trying to develop down there through the Bahamas. Doesn't look like it's going to become a tropical system, but it doesn't mean that it won't become a low and spread some of that rain inland. This is what I was just showing you. But you can see where it has its source down in the tropics. That's going to move up the coast for us on Thursday and Friday and bring us the best chance of rain that we'll see all week. Temperature-wise, we're in the 80s through Wednesday and then back down into the 70s. Right now, Sunday looks like the choice day of the week with mid-70s and drier conditions.
Like a little traumatized. When I come downstairs to go to work now, I gotta kind of just throw it open real quick and just kind of look, because I don't know if he was gonna pop back up.
A family in Georgia is on edge after a violent break-in. Why police are not looking for a suspect. A tiny house located near Boston is causing quite a stir on social media thanks to its steep asking price. We're talking really tiny, at only 251 square feet. The one-bedroom, one-bathroom house is listed on the real estate market for $449,000. Let that sink in for a moment. The glorified shed has a new kitchenette, though, with a granite countertop, a renovated restroom, all new lighting, and all these other amenities. It's yours for under $500,000, $450,000. Well, a Georgia family is in shock after coming home to find their front door damaged, glass everywhere, and a mess in the house. They called the police, searched all of the rooms. All of their valuables were still there, but they couldn't explain the holes in the walls. That's when they checked the doorbell camera and the culprit became clear. The burglar was a buck that took off. The couple says, fortunately, the damage done wasn't too extensive.
My. Our pet of the day doesn't cause as much damage. Purr Partners brings us Locket. 6-month-old domestic short hair. We're told Locket is a snuggler who also has his playful side. He purrs while laying in your lap for some TV time, but you can also find him sunbathing on the cat tree or wrestling with his foster siblings. Locket is great with children and other cats, so would be good in most homes. You can find out more about Locket and the other cute kitties ready for adoption at purrpartners.org.
Hold Locket close to your heart. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today. Jury selection began this morning in the trial of a Nash County man charged with killing his wife. Diana Keel's body was found in the woods about 30 miles from her home. Her husband, Lynn Keel, was charged with stabbing her to death. Lynn Keel took off and was arrested a few days later near Arizona during a traffic stop. A large fire destroyed a veterinary hospital for horses in New Hill this morning. No animals or people were believed to be injured, but the damage is extensive there. Authorities estimate tens of thousands of dollars in equipment and lab materials were lost in the fire. And starting today, all Live Nation locations, the Carolina Theater, and the DPAC require you to be fully vaccinated or show a recent negative test if you want to attend. If you're vaccinated, it must be at least 2 weeks after your final dose, and you'll be required to show your vaccination card.
We'll continue to follow those developing headlines and more on WRAL News when we return at 4.
You can also get breaking news updates anytime with our WRAL News app. Have a great day.